Okay, so as you can see, I've done a little bit more work on the leaves and a little bit more work on the petals, just really adding some details and some veining in there. Give you a little bit of a close-up so you can see. I added a little bit of shadowing inside the center and some darker yellow in there as well, making sure that all the folds and curves were softened. So there's put some pink in the leaves, kind of help follow the eye around. Worked on defining the rosebuds. And I've got some penciled in lines. You can see those are pencil lines right there. Just gonna work on those little places and show you what I mean about painting the different layers. So I've got now the ones that are closest to the rose are all of a certain value. And then as we get in further into the background, I want them to fade out a little and become less important. So that means that I'm gonna have to put a wash over top of some of those, and I wanted to share that with you because that's something that can be a little nerve-wracking and people can avoid doing it because it's a little bit scary to put a wash over things that you like. So like I'm just pushing these leaves of this rosebud to the back so that these stay in the front. So just adding sometimes a tiny little bit of more color on the back of something makes a big difference. I'm also going to be getting significantly darker in order for things to pop out, which is another thing people hesitate doing. So I've got a pencil line up here. Let me show you that and have that pop out for you by getting significantly darker back there. So I'm using French ultramarine and yellow ochre. And I've made myself, like I said, a little pencil line so that I know where I'm going with this. And I'm giving myself a new size of leaf. And it's going to help me define those razor edges a little bit more. I come in here. Now I don't want to outline it. I want to make sure and give myself enough variety in that dark. I'm dropping in some new gamboge in there so that it doesn't become outlined. And I'm going to go around this one here, bring that forward a little bit. So now we see this leaf hiding under there. I'm going to take that dark right up into that section there. Noticing and paying attention to where the curves of my leaf want to be. So those kind of fit into each other, maybe a little bit too nicely. So I think I'm going to take the edge of that out and say, hey, you know what, maybe those just disappear under each other. And I don't think that I want this. That was going to be a stem. I'm going to modify that. So I put things in, I take things out. I feel like that commercial. I lift things up and put them down. I pick things up and put them down. I lift things and take them out. So these leaves get to pop forward without lifting or anything else. I'm going to go ahead and make that similar. If you have dark on one side of a line or a shape, make sure that you have a similar color or darkness on the other side. Same thing down here. I'm going to carry that right over here because now I'm on the other side of this. So once again, if you have a color, a shape on one side, now I get to decide which way I want that little razor edge to go. I think I want it to go that way for this leaf under here. Whoop, didn't mean to do that. On one side, I got to bring it over here. Now this is my chance to change my color once I'm over here. Once I'm over here, I'm going to get some more, I think, new gamboge. It's kind of dry in here. We do have the air conditioning on. It is making it so that my colors are drying pretty fast. So bear with me. I have been re-wetting. Let me do that again. The spray bottle's indispensable for that. Let me spray my mixtures. Okay, so we see we've got another leaf discovered here, one here. I'm kind of just making this background as interesting and compelling as possible so it gives your eye somewhere to be. You want to be able to discover things and feel like, ooh, I didn't see that the first time I looked. That's how you know you've captured someone's attention, when they just keep wanting to look at what you've painted. So that's my intention. Create that. Now, I'm not going to try and make something else. I've got enough going on there. You also want some quiet places for your eye to rest. I had this super dark over here, so I really like that. That's super dark in there. I didn't want it to be the only super dark place I had though, so hence my coming back and, you know, kind of playing with the rich, rich darkness. Now, this leaf began with, it kind of was so light against everything else, and it kind of just disappeared into the darkness against the light, and it was a real focal point. And I didn't want that to be true for that leaf. I didn't want it to be a focal point. So as a result, I'm gonna make sure I don't dump my hand in there. I created another leaf next to it that wouldn't be so dark. So now it looks as if maybe these two are connected, and I like that. Now this is too light because I did lift quite a bit out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and just drop in. I'm really loving what the new gamboge does for these leaves, and let that disappear down there into that. And now I'm going to pull some of that up into this, because while I do want them to look separate, I don't want them to look like they completely don't belong to each other. So I'm going to let that, I think that's going to show up as just what I'm trying to accomplish there. So we're gonna let that dry. We'll reevaluate that. Same thing with this one. I feel like this is taking my eye out of the picture, this cute little leaf here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just wash over it a little bit with the green. Let it kind of blend into the background a little bit more. Let it not be such a spot of bright contrast. Oh, see, and as I look into the viewer, that looks just right. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. I've done some lifting, so I've gotta be careful. I can't play with that too much. But there, I'm gonna be able to just drop in that color so we don't have a bright light spot there. Now I've got this back here. I want this to go to the back, this other little leaf there. Just add that blue and let it fade back. I think I'm gonna create some more variety back there, but for now that will do. I'm gonna make some super dark right here. I'm using primarily French ultramarine for my super darks, and I just got a little bit of purple. I just got a little bit of the red there to kind of help me out with this little spot. Give me another rich color up against these others. Nice and dark down here. There we go, like that. And I don't have to distinguish those anymore. They're fine. This under here can be just a little bit mottled and blended there. I really enjoyed the curve of this leaf, but again, I don't want to lead my viewer's eye out of the picture. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of pink and a little bit of sweet new gamboge. I'm going to just tie it into the rose. You know, rose leaves do often have a little bit of pink on them, so I've kind of moved it around here. Now that looks too yellow compared to its little neighbor here, so I'm going to go ahead and put some of that and blend that out. That one already has a little bit of pink up here. I'm going for, hi Lila, I'm going for this one back here to be definitely darker. There's my friend, my kitty friend who wants to play with the camera. This also has a little bit of pink. I'm gonna put a little bit of yellow on there, tie it together. She is just so funny. Hey, stop moving the camera. Whatever I'm paying attention to, she feels the need to butt her head up against it. So this leaf up here, that is so bright compared to the rest of them. So I'm gonna put some water on it. Now this is Arches paper, which I've mentioned before, and that means that the paint will really stay on there. If this was Canson, just adding that water would have lifted up the paint, and that is not what I'm going for. So, okay, I'm gonna drop in a little bit of that. I don't want to cover the whole thing up. I don't mind a little bit of light. I do want it to have some variety and point back to that one. And do the same thing over there, nice wet brush. You know, light and shadow can be happening on these. We don't necessarily have to have any particular, you know, direct focus of where the light's coming from on something like this. It was an overcast day, so it wasn't particularly remarkable, and that means that I'm free to make it up as I go. So kind of like that, gives me something interesting happening, doesn't take my eye out of the picture anymore.